Join us as we celebrate the premieres of the James Bond films dating back to 1962 with Dr. No. I am Murray Gillespie from James Bond Canada as he shares his experience on the red carpet and how James Bond has been a iconic symbol of sophistication and elegance for decades. Murray, it's great to reconnect with you after such a long time.
Things are good. Things are good. Thanks for having me on, B. I miss you very much, and yeah, it's nice to reconnect after I think everyone got a little bit disconnected in the pandemic. Um, as being down in Oregon, there, you're probably getting the whiff of spring that we're getting. It's been a glorious week here in Vancouver. It's a beautiful sunny day here, and we're actually expecting temperatures of upwards of let me see, put this in America terms. Let's see, for it's supposed to be about 73 degrees tomorrow and bright and sunny. So if this is a preview of summer, I am all for it. Yeah, things are good.
Wow, that's great, man. Like I said, we connected during the pandemic.
We did.
And that was actually some of the most fun I actually had. And, we had some laughs. We also had some downtime together. Like,
We were mirroring each other because I went through surgery, you went through surgery, so we were kind of leaning on each other during the whole regular recovery and then the pandemic recovery too. So yeah, for sure.
I remember you telling, I should say, I remember telling you, I am feeling like I am going to throw up. And I think I got pumped with too much anesthesia. And I remember your reaction. You were like, "Oh my gosh, I am dying laughing." And I'm like, "But I'm so sorry at the same time."
I know I think I still have that in my messenger. And yeah, it was not it was laughing with you, not at you, but it was just so funny because you were still so hopped up and I couldn't stand it. And I kept poking you and ribbing you and laughing. And I'm like, oh my God, that is the funniest thing. You know what? I'm gonna pull my phone up, see
Oh
if I can
gosh.
find that because I totally forgot about that. That was jack funny, man. That
Oh,
was
and I was about to do the same thing. I'm not gonna lie, but the thing is, I'm using my phone as my webcam, so it's
uh
like, I don't think I can do that right
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny. It's hilarious. Yeah, it's
Oh,
great to see you.
yeah, it really is. It's like I said, it's been 3 years, I'd say. So yeah.
Or more. Or more.
Congratulations are definitely in order for Team James Bond Canada on your contributions to the sound of James Bond. Could you please share how you guys became involved with the project and before we move on to today's topic?
Yeah, for sure. Uh, we posted a YouTube video on our James Bond Canada channel, and it was talking a lot about the music of Bond and also stuff relating to the 25th anniversary of James Bond. So obviously that was a long time ago. That was 1987, and one of the researchers for the documentary came across was obviously that's what they do. They deep dive and they research and they find stuff, and they came across our video and they said, hey, we're putting together this documentary. You must have a lot of really cool memorabilia that relates to the music. Send me a list of what you got, send me some pics, and yeah, so did that. And they really gravitated towards that 25th anniversary issue of Variety magazine, in which, as John Barry, made his graceful exit to the Bond series, he took out a full page ad. Congratulations, Cubby, on 25 years. Love, John Barry. And so I sent them some high definition photos of that, and lo and behold, it did not land on the cutting room floor. So yeah, I have to say I was pretty chuffed because that trip to London for the 60th anniversary of Bond in 2022 was a very quick trip, and I didn't know if I was actually going to go. And then when I found out that the content that we had supplied was actually going to make it in, I did everything I could to get there because there was only one screening, right? And then it went to Amazon Prime, and it was at the British Film Institute, and it really was a hell of a day because I got on the red eye I think at 10 o'clock that night, got into Heathrow at 1, By the time I got my luggage, etc., got out of there, it was 2. The tube was on strike. So I had no way to get in the city. So I had to take a bus from to Hammersmith, and then another hour. I think I got to the hotel by like just before 3. And I basically, like, changed my shirt, combed my hair, stuffed a burrito in my face, and and made it down there, and got there at like 10 to 5, and the screening was at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's crazy because I remember actually I think that's actually truly the last time we actually spoke. I think it was, I think it was the night before you flying out actually. And
Yeah, I think so.
I remember you saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm going out to London." I'm like, "Wait, what for?" And you had filled me in, and it's like, "Oh, they're doing something, for the 60th anniversary. There's this new documentary that should be out within a few days."
Yeah,
Um, I'm lucky that I even have my tux all ready to go. I have, my suitcase packed. I will go live with you or something
yeah,
uh when I get in. And then I remember you messaging me right when you got into London. You said, "Dude, I am so exhausted. You don't even know." And I'm
you
like,
no, you don't know, because I'm telling you. But by the end of that day, because there was, see, there were so many screenings of Bond movies. Like, they screened Living Daylights, and they screened a bunch of those, and there was going to be Q&A sessions and hosts. David Williams did one, and there were a lot of Bond people there because a lot of people were going for the concert. So luckily, Jeff made it in by the Monday as well, so we got to go to the concert together, and hung out with Julian and Morton, and just a great bunch of people. And but that first night, I was so tired and I was so jet lagged, and I hadn't had a chance to eat like anything. And the only reason that I managed to buy that ticket, because I hadn't bought the ticket yet, and then I went online and I bought the ticket for the screening, because I wanted to be able to see that. Because I have to tell you, I was sitting in the theater and just watching and enjoying, and then the dialogue came on about, oh, John Barry, and then up pops this little, and I just, 9-year-old me has never been proud. I literally just, I still get kind of goosebumps up the back of my neck, because I'm like, that's mine. That's mine. It's in my home. It's in my, and it's not really something, but it's not nothing. And what I like about it is a tangible legacy in a Eon vetted and endorsed um, documentary. And when I saw those credits roll by and saw, additional content or additional items provided by James Bond Canada, and I saw our name in the credits, I it was it. I was just I was so happy. And then immediately there was another screening, and I recall Morton was there, David Williams was there, because I was meeting David the next day for dinner and a screening of No Time to Die at the IMAX. And David Zritsky was there, and yeah, we were outside, and David Williams was just about to go get in his Land Rover, and they were actually like concerned. They're like, "Murray, you are really, really pale. Like, you do not look well. Like, are you okay?" Because I think I was probably so running on empty. I wouldn't have surprised me at all if I just, like fainted. Yeah, I did not, it did not look good. Thankfully, the next day I recovered, and we got to do a couple other things, like some No Time to Die locations, and check out the what I forget his name, the photographer. What do I
Greg
sound?
Williams.
No, you're right, Greg Williams. Yeah, so we got to stop by the Konica store there, and check out some of that. We hit Aston Martin, but yeah, by then we were just eating food, enjoying London, enjoying the weather, and getting hyped up and ready for the concert.
I remember, watching, the documentary on Amazon, and it's amazing, like we haven't had anything like that about the music since, like the documentaries on the DVD extras.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you this, when I saw James Bond Canada pop up on the credits, my first thought was, this isn't the real James Bond Canada that I know. This isn't Murray Gillespie, Jeff Wybo, and Ryan. No, there's no way in heck.
It was kind of surreal because that's the thing that I didn't know how um, how much of a credit they were or how they were going to market. So they're like, how do you want this credited? Or no, it's I know it says this additional material provided by. That's what it actually says because I remember taking a screenshot. And then it rolled across the screen and I just
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. So yeah, we're super happy, super happy.
Yeah, and it like I'm gonna finish off here before we move on to our subject of the night. I just was like, these are two guys that I met during the pandemic, but I've never came face to face with them. But holy crap, this is this is amazing! Like, congratulations, like, again, are in order for all you guys.
Yeah, it's and again, I mean, I think we just landed our butt in the butter. It just happened to be because you're right. I think the Bond franchise could probably do a lot of different types of documentaries as they delve into, like, now there's that new exhibit, I guess it's in Chicago, right? And it's all about the science of 007, like what's fact, what's fiction, what can be made, what can't. Can you put nitroglycerin in a gum stick? Can you put a telescope in a lipstick tube? So I get that, and that's very interesting and fun in itself, different from Spyscape, or different from designing 007, where it's all about like costumes and props and stuff. But I'm really glad that they did something tangible for the 60th, and that they tied that into the concert, because obviously it could have been a much bigger if they had gotten like Adele to perform, or Billie Eilish, or Sam Smith, or some of the bigger names like Duran Duran come out of like retirement. So because the concert was great and it's on Amazon Prime too, watch it. But if you look at the people who performed, right, Lulu, she's a little long in the tooth, garbage, and they weren't garbage, called garbage. Chrissy Hind, who was supposed to play, didn't show, so that was a disappointment. And Shirley Bassey, like, even aha. And I talked to Matt, the director, afterwards. I said, were there other artists you approached who weren't able to? And he said, yes, scheduling conflicts and things like that. Well, it's scheduling. What scheduling conflict means in entertainment, in jargon.
Yeah, and you got to tip your hat to at least David Arnold, going out there and singing My Name, and especially after the tragic loss of Chris Cornell.
Chris Cornell. And it was a really, really good. There was a cool moment. I think I forget exactly what it was. He sort of picked up the guitar, and then he was with Hans Zimmer, and he threw him like the guitar pick, and they were both going with the same guitar. But even think about this, right? Shirley Bassey has said multiple times that she doesn't like the song Moonraker. She never sings it in concert. And I'm like, okay, listen, it's the 60th anniversary of Bond. You're there anyway. Like, could you not just do a one time? Because everyone thought maybe that someone would, like, maybe she'd come out second or third and do like Diamonds Are Forever, and then come out later and do like Goldfinger or something. No. She opened with Goldfinger, went right into Diamonds Are Forever, and then she was gone. So it was like, that was like kind of like the big moment and the big opener of the show. And I'm just like, look, you sing Moonraker, sing it. You're there. It's the 60th anniversary of Bond. Like, what would it hurt to do it now? It's supposed to be for the audience, right? So yeah. But I can't complain. And Julian, strangely enough, after he watched the footage, he's like, "Ooh, that's us." And I said, "How can you tell?" He goes, "Because that's your bald spot." I'm like, you know what? I love you. I'm gonna smack you, but I still love you, because it's true, and that's how I find myself. I'm like, oh, there we are. So yeah, being we were about 8 rows back, right in the aisle. It was just, I could reach out and touch Miss Shirley. It was a pretty great night.
And you can't blame her for honestly not singing Moonraker. It is the only Bond title that doesn't reflect to what it really means in real life.
Yeah,
Moonraker legitimately means gold prospector.
she's got to be about, I guess, in her 80s now, whatever. And she's the diva. She's the dame. Sing what you want. It just sort of surprised me, is that's all, because that's like, if Chrissy Hynde, who was supposed to come, didn't, right? So if she sang If There Was a Man, she probably would, but she didn't sing Where Is Everybody Gone, I'd be like, come, why not? You're there. You did 2 songs. Sing them both. In any case.
Your time in London must have been unforgettable. What stands out as your most memorable memory from attending not one, but 3 Bond film premieres? And those are Skyfall, Spectre, and No Time to Die.
Yeah. Yeah, it was unforgettable, truly. Each one special in its own way. Obviously, in 2012, when that was my first one, uh, it was quite an overwhelming experience, and I used to tell people that it was the most glamorous night of my life up until that point. Part of the fun was, I thought that I would be exceptionally nervous. Like, I thought nervous excitement, and I thought that I wasn't going to be able to, and I was quite nervous. I remember getting into a cab, and my my mouth was dry, like I couldn't even talk, and I said, "Well, Albert Hall." It was like I was so choked up because I couldn't believe I was actually going. And then I got out onto the red carpet, and it kind of felt like I'd been there all my life. I don't know how else to describe it. I just felt super comfortable. Started saying hello to people and meeting people, and then watching the stars arrive, and etc. And part of the thrill for me was that prior to 2012, I had done my own 50th anniversary Bond exhibit here in Vancouver, along with a film festival. And so I was required to make contact and get in touch with a lot of people at Eon, in their archive department and their marketing department, etc. And shortly before the lead up to that, there was a segment, which I encourage everyone to watch. If you can't find it, it's out there to watch on YouTube. And it is a 60 minutes segment. It's hosted by Anderson Cooper. I think it's only about 15 minutes long, the segment is. And it's archive director Meg Simmons from Eon. And she's taken Anderson Cooper to this, nondescript warehouse somewhere in London where they hide and house all of like the old Bond archives. And I think I watched that on like a Sunday night or something before I left. And I was walking the red carpet, and I recognized her. So I went over and said hello and introduced myself. And she was quite happy and quite impressed. She's like, "Okay, you spotted me from sight on the red carpet." She's like, "Yeah, well done." 2015, I was extremely lucky, because we'd received some press credentials from a Canadian TV show here. And so with those press credentials, we were able to get quite close to that press row. And so that's where I got some amazing pictures and content, got up close and personal with, Sam Mendes and Naomi Harris and Daniel Craig and Christoph Waltz. And now help me here. Am I going to get this right? Is it Jesper Christensen?
There you go.
Okay, because I had a trouble with him. For a while I used to call him Christian Jesperson, because I was like, but do you want to know my embarrassing moment from 2012? So I'm mulling around, and this lady appears behind me, and I said, wait, and she's dressed in a gold dress. And I turned to her, and it, because the people in the Bond movies, they don't look like they do now. If we're talking about a movie from the 60s. And I called Shirley Eden Honor Black
Oh,
because I
geez.
said, Miss Black. And she said, what, darling? I said, Honor Black. No, darling, sorry, got it wrong. And then like seconds later, I'm like, yo, did you it was pretty great. Yeah, so 2015 Spectre was, it was fantastic. Plus, of course, by 2015, um, Jeff and I had finally met in person for the first time. And we sort of assembled James Bond Canada as it sort of exists today. Of course, now we've got Aaron on board, Aaron Dishko in Calgary as well. So there's a triumvirate of power. Em is still in charge, and I call them my stupid good lookings because they're younger and they are good looking. I'm just gonna fade into the background soon. I'll just be like M, only it'll just be like the chair in a bald spot, and I'll just be like holding up like a drink. I won't even turn the chair around. I'll just give them commands and tell them what to do. And yeah, so that was pretty great. And then 2022, I mean, or 2021, I mean, it was it was still pandemic. So part of the thrill of Spectre, or I mean, No Time to Die, finally coming out, like finally. I cannot tell you how many times the day they announced the moratorium and then they moved it from November, then to February, and then to March, and then on to November, and then forward. My suitcase was open and it was on the floor. Like I had stuff in it ready to go. And so when we finally got to London, the restriction for the masks came off at midnight on that night, and always fly British Airways, never fly Air Canada, and they had just reopened all of like the outdoor little like pubs. So the only place I had to wear my mask was on my flight over, and by midnight it got off, and on the tube because you could get a ticket. So it was just glorious to be in London. Just the seas parted like just enough, and I remember coming home and I was watching the news, and they said, "Oh, as of Tuesday, um, Canada is no longer marked as a yellow country on the UK's list, and people will be able to travel." And I screamed like a schoolgirl who had just been, gotten a prom proposal, like out loud by myself in my house, like, and I the flights got to everything, and somehow just before the Omicron started, it's like the Red Seas parted just enough to let me in for No Time to Die and back out before they closed up again, and I wasn't going to be able to get home. So it really was everything just locked into place, perfectly, and it was just glorious to be there with people like Anders and I. Anders, great guy, from Sweden with Love. I mean, we went clubbing. Like I'm talking proper clubbing, VIP, bottle service, 4:30 in the morning, packed place, people dressed nicely and dancing and partying. And it was just epic. And of course, that's when we invited Aaron to join James Bond Canada. And so the three of us got to, go to the red carpet together. Though I was still drinking at the hotel when they scurried off. I'm like, where are you? I'm like, we left. I'm like, what do you mean you left? That's
Oh,
okay. Little guy can catch up. So yeah, I have been exceptionally fortunate, and because Skyfall was a pretty cool one to be at too, because it was the 50th anniversary of Bond. So even Daniel Craig said, I've been to premieres, I've never seen anything like this. And then the way they had Royal Albert Hall decked out with all of that Day of the Dead stuff, like it just lent itself to spectacle. Like I mean, even watching the Spectre, or the footage of the Spectre premiere in Mexico City, like that was crazy. And then No Time to Die, yes, a little more subdued, but I think people were just so happy, but to be there and to have it finally, be out. The strange thing that people may not think of or know if they've never been to a red carpet premiere, um, you really have to pick your battles, because there are step and repeats everywhere, and people want to get pictures, And plus, then they all want to stop at the same spot to get photos of the stars as they come. Well, all the stars don't arrive together, and the security moves you on. So it's literally like a cow catcher, and you're just herding sheeple. So you have to kind of get up there, push through slowly, take your picture, get here, because it's not like you can just go up and take like one photo, because there's 1,000 other people waiting behind you to take that same photo. And then based on that, you can't just loiter and languish in that area where those stars are to get all of your awesome photos. Plus, it's an event. Be there in the experience. Be present in the moment. Don't be glued to your camera, getting content, getting this. You want to get in, you want to say hello to your friends, you want to get to your box, you want to have some canapes, you want to get a couple of glasses of champers in you. You want to be feeling good, because I'm telling you, that is one thing that happens at those premieres. They usually open like 6:30 is doors for like an 8 o'clock performance. So you're getting ready all afternoon. And I've seen it. If you don't have time to have lunch or some kind of late lunch, by the time you get to the bar that we go to, and I always say it's Duke's, but it's not. I forget the name of the hotel where we go to have drinks. You get a couple of martinis in you by like 4:30, 5 o'clock with no food. You get another couple in you by Royal Albert, and then the intermission. I am telling you, you are schlitzed, just polluted and falling over yourself by the time you come out of there. That's why everyone goes to the casino afterwards, because we're just get this food in me. It's crazy. So those are my anecdotes and tips and tricks if you get to the red carpet.
Well, and they're definitely unforgettable to say, at least too.
It's amazing. It really
Yeah.
is.
So I'm gonna, and before we move on, I should say, so you went to No Time to Die. Did you have a problem with Daniel Craig dying at the end?
I'll tell you, it's strange, because it, in Skyfall, um, there were a few people down in the orchestra who had said afterwards, like, did you hear that guy crying up in the balcony when M died? I literally, I was in tears, and I was crying, like, like full on, like, I was so emotional over M. I love that character. I love Judi Dench, and I think she brought a continuity to the Bond series since GoldenEye. That was one of the only things that held it together during that Pierce Brosnan era. So for her, I had great affinity. At the end of No Time to Die, it was kind of like a delayed grief reaction. It didn't hit me. I wasn't sad. I was just I just felt like it was the end of something. I couldn't describe and couldn't put my finger on exactly what it was the end of. But as I talked to some other people at the Hippodrome afterwards, and we all sort of shared notes and compared notes, I felt somehow that something that had been a huge part of my life since I was a child, is somehow something had changed. Some part of it was over. I realize now that that's not the case, but that's how I felt at the time, and I don't begrudge them with the direction they took, because they kept hyping No Time to Die as, like, you've never seen anything like this, like the Bond to end all bonds, this is the one. And we're so used to that sort of tagline, the biggest, the best, Thunderball, Spy Who Loved Me, the biggest, the best, Bond and Beyond, outer space now belongs to 007, A View to a Kill, has 007 made his match. So a lot of it seemed like, empty marketing taglines. So I thought, well, if they didn't do something drastic, what would that mean? And I think it gives the franchise an opportunity to go in a completely different direction. So it's exciting for new opportunities. We'll see what happens. If they decide to get a really young actor and take it back to like a 1960s period piece spy kind of, and relive that, because they're not going to remake Goldfinger. They're not going to remake From Russia with Love, but what happens? Is James Bond a code name? Is it, it's whatever's fresh, whatever they're going to do, it opens new opportunities. But yeah, I definitely felt pretty cathartic after it was all done, thinking, well, Spectre's dead, Bond's dead, Blofeld's dead, the franchise is dead. So we'll see.
Yeah, I can tell you this. I remember, going in and, like you had mentioned about the trailers, there was those certain taglines of like, oh, the biggest Bond yet, it's like, okay, well, yeah, it is the biggest Bond yet for A1, the pandemic hit and you're finally launching. Okay, I get that you're wanting to throw taglines out there to lure the audience. Well, guess what? You're luring the Bond fans alone. You're not per se going to lure the average Joe, which I remember, some theaters in the United States were truly emptied. I remember also seeing the film in theaters and being like, okay, well, here's Rami Malek's character. Okay, well, later on, he's revealed as, of course, a scientist. You know, there was the production leak photo of him standing under like a Ken Adam like set. And of course, everybody got Ken Adam vibes from it. And I know when I did, everybody was speculating, oh, he's the next Dr. No. And honestly, there's that little, clip from, one of the other scientists saying, Dr. Safin. Like, okay, well, is he going to get revealed as Dr. No? And I was, like fully on like the edge of my seat. He's going to
Yeah,
be revealed here. He's going to be revealed here. Like, but the thing is, yeah, they're probably not going to make From Russia with Love again. They're probably not going to make Dr. No again, but they may take elements like they have, in past franchises, and the Bond films have of recently. For example, Spectre, took elements from such and such. No Time to Die. It took the elements of You Only Live Twice's book.
yeah,
With
and
the
and that is particularly interesting to me because I have read the Bond novels. I would imagine that I have only actually read them once each and a long, long time ago. So I couldn't even remember whether I actually finished, like lines where, Jeff and Aaron would say, die, Blofeld, die, and, the poison garden and the in the book, You Only Live Twice, like the what is it, Shatterhand?
Yes,
It's like,
correct.
that's his. So to me, a little bit of that stuff was kind of lost in the ether, which I thought was kind of cool for me because if I was so close to the content of the novel, I don't know if I would have. I don't think I would have thought it as a cop out, but I would be like, oh, okay. So now I understand why everyone thought, this Poison Garden he was going to be, and that's why they, that the next film before we knew the title was going to be called Shatterhand and this and that. But what I really did enjoy, and I think this is where they succeeded in Skyfall, didn't do so well with Blofeld in Spectre, even though I love Spectre. I think Spectre is a fantastic film. But what I mean by getting it right was Skyfall was kind of pitched as keeping one foot in Bond history and in the past and one in the future. And I really love that dichotomy of that film of like, okay, out goes the new car, gets in the old Aston. The lines like, where are we going? Back in time. The ding, 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 like really, really melding that yesteryear of 1962 Bond to the 50th anniversary Bond, and then that logo we all wanted at the start showing that 50th anniversary of Bond. And I think not only did the content and the script lend to that, but it lent well for the timeline. Silva being more, technologically advanced and Bond sort of being, stuck in that. The Spectre and Blofeld's reveal. I remember sitting beside Morton and Marcos at the press screening, at the private screening room in the headquarters of Sony Pictures, watching that before the royal premiere that night. And I vividly remember I must have been like a teenage girl on a roller coaster digging my nails in because I grabbed Marcos's arm, was on the armrest next to me when the little salamander crawls across and they panned across and I saw the white cat. It's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, he's blown, oh my god, I was like losing my crap. It was so good. What I didn't like was the whole stepbrother concept. Like, I don't know where that came from or why. It just didn't, and even in some of the leaked bits of script that we saw prior to that, there were notes from like the production and marketing saying, hello, Blofeld, like 50 years of the series, Spectre, we've got the rights, we've got the title. Shouldn't this be like a little bit more of a like, holy shit, than a Blofeld goodie?
Is this where I say it's Purvis and Wade's writing?
Potentially. So that didn't get me, but then No Time to Die, what was great, and I haven't watched it for a while, but there were so many Easter eggs for us Bond fans in that one. The suits, looking like that Dr. No nuclear lab, and I know there are like three right off. Oh, there's a Living Daylights one in there. That's what is that?
I think that's the car.
Is it the Bulldog?
The Royal Dalton Bulldog, the
Yeah,
Craig
no, I
era.
meant the Aston Martin Bulldog.
But oh yeah, that's the V8. Yeah.
The Vantage, or yeah. But there were definite, moments, and I'd have to watch it again because you know how we are as Bond fans. We see them all so much, and they kind of they're in a reel in our eyes that goes on sort of forever. If I watch them again, I'm like, oh, that's really well, obviously all of the OHMSS references, the music and the car and stuff. But I really loved how it seemed to be there were little homages and snippets of a lot of different Bond movies in No Time to Die that I think they probably put in the trailer on purpose to throw people off the scent. But I found them really great.
Yeah, and I you got to be thankful, that the Bond franchise really does do that, and you got to tip their hat to Eon for busting out the old relics per
Yeah.
se, because they did it in Die Another Day, and then here they're doing it in No Time to Die. And
I think depending on what like we hear things through the grapevine and their announcements, but yeah, we'll if they get something out before say 2026 or so, one thing that may not be on people's radar right away, but will definitely be a big marketing push, and I think that we've already sort of we've put out some feelers and some fires. Thankfully, we have an excellent relationship with this particular brand, and coming up in 2029 will be the 200th anniversary of Bollinger Champagne.
oof.
So mark your calendars for that. There could be some really, really cool Bollinger and 007 stuff hitting there, and if it coincides with the film, even better.
Let me ask you this, Murray, before we end. Do you think the franchise should take the premieres back to Odeon Leicester Square or stick at Royal Albert Hall?
You know what? That is, I really am of two minds on that, because I would have always loved to have attended a premiere of the Odeon Leicester Square, just because it's so much more public. And when I say that by public, I don't mean that it's accessible, but it is really, it's like going to what used to be Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood, where it's this mass and mass and mass of people. Now, Royal Albert Hall does the same thing because they line the fans all the way on the street. But once you're in that little sort of alcove, then it's only the people with tickets and the stars. So I've seen so many great footage of that, and there's a great YouTube clip where I think it's only about like 7 or 8 minutes, and it shows like every Bond premiere from like 62 onwards. So I I I would venture to say yes.
Mhm.
That being said, they really do they've really done Royal Albert Hall justice in the last few premieres in really making it a spectacle. But I just think, Bond is forever. And it's a fantastic theater. It could hold it. It is very prestigious. It's like the home of the UK premieres. I mean, they still have them there all the time. They had, the Lord of the Rings premiere. I think Challengers, the new movie with Zendaya, the tennis movie, that's coming out there as well. And knowing that around the time of day, it is really cool to see all of the music students in their dorms at Royal Albert Hall, lining all the windows around, staring down the red carpet, and throngs and throngs of people, down Royal Albert or Prince Albert Road, packing them up. But I think it would be really cool to have a premiere at the Odeon Leicester Square. It would probably feel more public for everyone and less exclusive because obviously a red carpet premiere is exclusive for sure, but I think there's something about exclusivity that may take your average Bond fan and they may say, why does it always have to be so, you know, so bougie?
Mhm. And that brings me to my follow-up question with that. If you could travel back in time, which Bond premiere would you choose?
I would go to A View to a Kill because it was kind of, I mean, that was really like, the heart of my teenage years. Um, Duran Duran was the first concert I ever saw, and I was a huge Duran Duran fan. So that marriage made in heaven at the time of like James Bond and Duran Duran, it like it was like stars aligning. Like I kind of couldn't believe that. Like, wait, my two favorite things are actually like connected. Um, and also, the cast to see Grace Jones, that '80s fashion, Roger Moore's last film, um, and just sort of everything about it. Plus the fact that it's one of the few premieres that premiered in the U.S. and not in the U.K. And that was part of the filming permits because Mayor Dianne Feinstein, she had said, you know, I'll give you all the permits you need, filming permits, film all around our city on the bridge, everything you need. The caveat that you have the premiere here. And so it was held at the Palace of Fine Arts. So and also it was summer, right? So not like these cold November, you know, Bond premieres, and as well because A View to a Kill was the first Bond premiere that I ever went to here in Canada. I won a pass off a radio station, and so I still have that pass. So to remember that as my first premiere, yeah, I think if I could go back in time, I would definitely get myself down to Cali and be on the red carpet for that.
That's one of probably the most bizarre films out there. I'm not gonna lie, but
Totally.
that is your time period too. So, and I'm not aging you or anything like that.
Oh, age me
Oh,
away.
oh, he's in his 50s. Everybody, if you
I
don't know that Murray is in his 50s, and you got to give the man credit. He looks fantastic for his age. But honestly, for someone being mid 30s, I'm gonna personally say I would jump back and probably I would go Thunderball.
Oh
But
yeah,
again,
yeah.
that's my
No,
favorite Bond film.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I think my choice, is based on specifics to my affinity to that movie, that era, that film, a lot of that stuff. For sure. I mean, going back to like a premiere in the '60s, like a New York premiere at the Astor of like Goldfinger or something, or like you think about the Only Live Twice, and that being like at the time people thought Connery's last one, but oh yeah, oh absolutely, Thunderball, that would be amazing.
Same with probably Goldeneye, even though that was the heart of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing it at Radio City Music Hall in New York,
GoldenEye was one of the few premieres in Canada that they actually made a really, really big deal about. It was a huge premiere in Toronto, and it was this with some big sponsors like Smirnoff and Yves Saint Laurent. Yeah, because otherwise there's more just like local stuff. But yeah, because it was part of a large film festival, and some very important people went to that. It was I didn't get I was out here at that time and I was still traveling and I just got back. So I did manage to see a premiere of Goldfinger, but didn't get to that. Didn't make it back in time.
So, thank you, Murray, for sharing your red carpet experience with us. We look forward to the possibility of collaborating on future projects, and we'll share links to James Bond Canada's YouTube and social media channels. Any final thoughts, Murray?
My final thought is let's both get healthy, and I expect to see you in London for the next Bond movie so that we can bond on the red carpet together. That's what I anticipate. But I really do think that, obviously we're in a Bond dry spell. There's still some brand stuff that that kind of filters here and there, little bits and pieces that we see, but nothing really new. So we're in that Bond lull. But we know that it's going to ramp up again immediately as soon as they, get a script, get a shooting schedule, choose the new Bond, and then as soon as then once everyone's got, oh, who's the new Bond, then it'll be the same fodder as always. Who's the next Bond girl? Who's singing the theme song? So it's going to be that role, and I really hope that you can get yourself to the UK so that we can see each other in person and have some fun times on the red carpets over there for Bond 26.
So, is it safe to say that I gotta hang up the tuxedo T-shirt for that because clearly that won't fly?
You know what? I won't diss you on the red carpet, but I know people who will.
Unlock the true potential of our videos by clicking that like button and hitting subscribe. This is Brian Levesque and signing off for now, but we will see you soon.